Don't let go of my hand. Logan Hayes said it so quietly, I almost missed it beneath the low mechanical hum surrounding us, which was impressive considering the elevator had stopped moving 3 minutes ago, and my brain had spent every second since then composing my obituary. Ethan Parker, 27, marketing specialist, occasional overthinker, tragically defeated by a metal box somewhere between the 18th and 19th floors. At least I hoped we were between the 18th and 19th floors. The glowing floor display had disappeared when the lights went out, leaving us in darkness so complete that I couldn't see my own shoes. Not that my shoes were currently my biggest concern. Breathing was. Breathing had suddenly become an advanced skill requiring a graduate degree I did not possess. I'm fine, I said, which would have sounded considerably more convincing if my voice hadn't cracked on the word fine. Logan didn't laugh. Of course he didn't. Logan barely laughed when the rest of the office was operating under normal lighting and nobody was trapped inside malfunctioning machinery. He was the quiet coworker. Every office had one. The guy who arrived at 8:15 every morning, nodded politely at everyone, did excellent work, and somehow survived an entire 8-hour day using approximately 12 words. I'd worked 3 desks away from him for almost a year, and I knew exactly 4 things about Logan Hayes. He drank black coffee. He wore his sleeves rolled to his forearms when he was concentrating. He had gray-blue eyes that made maintaining normal eye contact unnecessarily difficult. And for reasons I had never figured out, he seemed determined to avoid being alone with me, which made our current situation feel like the universe had developed a deeply inappropriate sense of humor. Ethan. His voice came through the darkness again, lower this time. Breathe with me. I swallowed. I am breathing. You're counting. My stomach tightened. He was right. I'd been silently counting each breath because numbers gave my mind somewhere to go when enclosed spaces started feeling smaller than they actually were. For seconds in. For seconds out. Repeat until the walls stopped moving closer. It was a habit I'd never told anyone at work about, especially Logan. How did you know that? I asked. Silence. Not empty silence. Logan's silence. There was a difference, and somehow I'd learned it without realizing I was learning anything about him at all. Then his thumb moved once across my knuckles, a small, steady reminder that his hand was still wrapped around mine. Warm. Careful. Not gripping. Not pulling. Just there. Because you do it whenever the conference room gets crowded, he said. My next breath stopped halfway in. Somewhere beyond the elevator walls, the building continued existing without us. Air conditioning systems hummed. Computers slept. Security guards probably drank terrible coffee. Everything was normal except for the fact that Logan Hayes, the man who sometimes answered my cheerful good morning with a nod, had apparently been paying enough attention to know something I'd spent years hiding. You noticed that? I whispered. His hand tightened by the smallest degree. I notice a lot about you. And suddenly being trapped in the dark wasn't the thing making my heart race anymore. 6 hours earlier, my biggest problem had been a blueberry muffin and the increasingly convincing possibility that Logan Hayes disliked me. The muffin was easier to explain. It had exploded inside its paper bag somewhere between the lobby and the 22nd floor, leaving crumbs across my shirt 5 minutes before our Monday strategy meeting. Logan was harder. Great. I muttered, brushing at my navy button-down as I stepped into the conference room. Very professional, Ethan. Nothing inspires confidence like arriving covered in breakfast. Most of the team was already seated. Logan occupied his usual chair near the window, laptop open, black coffee beside his right hand, expression calm enough to suggest he had never lost an argument with baked goods. His gray-blue eyes lifted toward me. They paused, then dropped to my shirt. I prepared myself for judgment. Instead, Logan quietly slid a packet of napkins across the table when I sat beside him. Thanks, I whispered. He nodded. That was Logan. Helpful enough to make disliking him impossible, distant enough to make understanding him equally impossible. Our manager, Melissa Grant, started reviewing numbers for an upcoming client campaign, and I opened my presentation. Slide 1 appeared perfectly. Slide 2 appeared perfectly. Slide 3 contained a chart I had been fighting with until nearly midnight. Except now the chart was fixed. The labels were aligned. The colors matched our client template. Even the percentage I had accidentally rounded incorrectly had been corrected. I stared at the screen. Did somebody fix this? Melissa asked. Apparently the spreadsheet fairy visited overnight. I said. A few people laughed. Logan looked at his coffee. Interesting. After the meeting, I caught him near the printer. Was that you? He glanced up. Was what me? My presentation. There was a formatting issue. There were 17 formatting issues. 17 seemed manageable. I stared at him. Logan pressed the print button. You stayed late fixing my slides. I was already here. That is suspiciously kind behavior for someone who communicates mostly through nodding. For half a second, something changed in his face. Almost a smile. Almost. You talk enough for both of us. I put a hand over my heart. Logan Hayes just made a joke. Should I alert human resources? The printer started humming, and he collected his pages. Please do not. Then he walked away, leaving me smiling like an idiot beside a machine producing quarterly reports. The rest of the day should have corrected that impression. Instead, it made everything worse. At noon, I returned from a client call to find a coffee beside my keyboard. Medium drip, splash of oat milk, no sugar. Exactly right. No note. I looked around. Logan was across the room, focused on his monitor. Did you buy this? I called. He looked over. You missed lunch. That was not an answer. How do you know my coffee order? He paused for one beat too long. You order the same thing every day. Then he turned back to his screen. I stared at the cup. Maybe Logan did not dislike me. Somehow, that possibility was considerably more dangerous. By 5:30, the office had emptied so quickly you would have thought someone announced free parking downtown. Melissa appeared beside my desk with her coat already on and the apologetic expression managers reserved for assigning work after normal human beings had begun thinking about dinner. The Denver client moved the review to tomorrow morning, she said. We need the campaign forecast cleaned up tonight. I looked at the spreadsheet on my monitor. When you say we, I assume you mean a talented group of professionals with reasonable work-life balance. Melissa pointed across the room. Logan was still at his desk. I mean you and Logan. Of course she did. 20 minutes later, the 22nd floor belonged almost entirely to us. The overhead lights had switched into energy-saving mode, leaving every other row dim. Outside the windows, the city turned blue and gold as daylight faded. Logan worked without music, without complaints, and apparently without the biological need to become distracted every 7 minutes. I lasted 11. Important question, I said. His fingers stopped above his keyboard. Is it about the forecast? Absolutely not. If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? Logan looked at me as if I had asked him to explain gravity using interpretive dance. We have 3 hours of work left. That is not a food. Ethan, I am preventing workplace fatigue. You are creating workplace fatigue. I stared at him. Then I laughed. Logan looked back at his screen, but this time I caught it. A smile. Small, quick, real. There it is, I said. What? Nothing. You are smiling. I am working. You can do both. This is a historic evening. His smile disappeared, but not before it reached his eyes. Something warm shifted inside my chest, and I immediately decided to ignore it. At 7:15, Logan disappeared without explanation. I assumed he had finally escaped. 10 minutes later, he returned carrying 2 paper bags from the deli downstairs. He placed one beside my keyboard. Turkey sandwich, kettle chips, and a chocolate chip cookie. You missed lunch, he said. Again. Are you secretly monitoring my nutritional intake? Someone should. I opened the bag. You remembered I hate mustard. Logan sat down. You mentioned it once. 6 months ago. He became very interested in his computer. That strange feeling returned. Not dramatic. Not fireworks. Just a quiet awareness that this man had been collecting tiny details about me while I had been busy assuming he barely noticed I existed. We finished at 9:53. I sent the final file to Melissa and leaned back with a groan. If she asks for revisions tonight, I am changing my name and moving to Vermont. Logan closed his laptop. Why Vermont? I do not know. It feels emotionally unavailable. He laughed. Actually laughed. The sound surprised both of us. For 1 second, Logan looked almost embarrassed. I smiled. You should do that more often. His expression softened. Maybe you should give me more reasons. Neither of us spoke after that. We packed our bags and walked toward the elevators together. When the doors opened, Logan gestured for me to enter first. I stepped inside, suddenly aware that we were alone again. He pressed the button for the parking garage before I could. You remembered, I said. Logan glanced at me. I told you. I noticed things. The door slid shut. The first few floors passed in comfortable silence, which should have warned me that the universe was preparing something. I stood near the control panel while Logan leaned against the opposite wall, his messenger bag resting against one leg. The elevator hummed downward through the building, the numbers changing steadily above the doors. 21, 20, 19. For the record, I said, I think we work surprisingly well together. Logan looked over. Surprisingly? You have the conversational energy of a library after closing, and you have the conversational energy of 3 morning radio hosts. That sounded judgmental. It was an observation. You are getting dangerously funny tonight. The corner of his mouth lifted. Then the elevator gave a sudden shudder. The lights flickered once, twice. The floor beneath my shoes seemed to hesitate, and the soft mechanical hum disappeared. We stopped. I looked at the number above the doors. 18 glowed for half a second before vanishing. Well, I said carefully, that seems less than ideal. Logan straightened. Stay calm. I am extremely calm. I pressed the button for the parking garage. Nothing happened. I pressed it again, because apparently I believed elevators responded to persistence. Still nothing. Logan stepped toward the emergency panel and pressed the call button. A faint burst of static answered him. Hello, he said. More static. Then silence. Excellent, I muttered. Love that for us. Logan pulled out his phone. No signal. I checked mine. 1 weak bar appeared, disappeared, then returned just long enough to give me false hope. Mine is considering having signal. The lights flickered again. My joke died before I finished smiling. Darkness filled the elevator. Complete darkness. Not dim, not shadowy. Nothing. My lungs forgot what they were doing. I knew exactly where I was. I knew the elevator was roughly 7 feet wide. I knew Logan was only a few feet away. None of that mattered. My mind had already replaced facts with walls that felt closer every second. I inhaled. Too quickly. Again. Ethan. Logan's voice sounded different now. No teasing. No distance. I am fine. The words came automatically. You are not. That is rude. Probably. I heard him move, then stop. He did not touch me. Somehow that mattered. Can you hear me? Yes. Good. Just listen to my voice. I closed my eyes, which was ridiculous because opening them changed absolutely nothing. I hate elevators, I admitted. I know. My eyes opened. What? A pause. We can talk about that later. Logan, how could you possibly know that? Later, Ethan. His voice remained steady. Right now, breathe slowly. I tried. My chest refused to cooperate. For seconds in. For seconds out. I started counting silently. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Logan went quiet for several seconds. Then he said my name with such certainty that the counting stopped. Ethan, give me your hand. I could not see him. I could only hear his breathing somewhere in front of me. Why? Because you do not have to stand there pretending you are okay. Something in that sentence reached through the panic. I lifted my hand into the darkness. For one uncertain second, there was nothing. Then warm fingers found mine. Logan did not pull me closer. He did not squeeze too hard. He simply closed his hand around mine and stayed there. There, he said softly. You are not alone. My breathing slowed by one small degree. Then another. You are strangely good at this, I whispered. At broken elevators? At making me believe you know exactly what I need. Logan was silent. His thumb moved once across my knuckles. Maybe, he said. I have been paying attention longer than you think. For several seconds, I forgot we were trapped. That was probably the strangest part. The elevator was still dark, the emergency button was still useless, and somewhere beyond those metal doors were 18 floors of building between us, and anything resembling a normal Monday night. Yet Logan's hand was warm around mine, and suddenly my brain had found a new emergency to focus on. How long is longer than I think? I asked. Logan exhaled softly. You are supposed to be concentrating on breathing. I can breathe and interrogate you at the same time. That sounds ambitious. You underestimate my ability to multitask under emotional distress. A quiet laugh came from somewhere directly in front of me. There it was again. That rare Logan laugh. In the darkness, without his careful office expression attached to it, the sound felt different. Easier. Fine, he said. Keep talking. That is dangerous advice. I know. I smiled despite myself. My breathing had almost returned to normal. Logan seemed to notice because his grip loosened slightly, giving me room to pull away. I did not. That realization arrived with uncomfortable clarity. I could have let go. I simply did not want to. So, I said, you knew I hated elevators. I knew you avoided crowded ones. That is disturbingly specific. You take the stairs after the Monday staff meeting. I blinked into the darkness. We work on the 22nd floor. I know. That is 22 floors of stairs, Logan. Technically, you usually walk down, not up. I stared toward where I thought his face was. You noticed that too? Yes. What else? He hesitated. That hesitation told me more than an immediate answer would have. You tap your pen against your desk when you are worried about a deadline. Everybody knows that. Melissa thinks you do it when you are bored. Okay, continue. You call your sister on Sunday evenings. My smile disappeared. How do you know that? You mentioned once that she lives in Oregon. Every Monday morning, you usually tell someone what your niece did during the call. I remembered dozens of casual conversations near the coffee machine, details scattered across months like loose change. Logan had apparently been collecting them. Anything else? I asked more quietly. You pretend you do not care about birthdays, but you remember everyone else's. My throat tightened. Logan, you always give the last donut to somebody else. That is because I am heroic. You hate thunderstorms. I stopped breathing for an entirely different reason. I never told you that. Last summer, during that storm, everyone went to the windows. You moved away from them. The darkness suddenly felt less empty. I became aware of every point where our hands touched, every quiet breath between us. You really do notice things, I said. Logan did not answer. Why? I asked. His fingers became still. Why what? Why me? The question seemed to change the air. For the first time since the lights went out, Logan sounded uncertain. Ethan, you remember my coffee, my lunch, my family calls. You know when I am anxious before I do. People do not accidentally notice someone that much. Silence stretched between us. I could hear the faint ventilation system overhead and the steady rhythm of his breathing. Then Logan's thumb brushed lightly across my knuckles again. No, he said softly. I guess they do not. Logan's answer should have satisfied me. It did not. If anything, those 5 quiet words opened a door in my head and released approximately 300 new questions, all of them now shouting at once. That sounded suspiciously like an admission, I said. It was an observation. You cannot keep using observation as a legal defense. I was not aware I was on trial. You know my coffee order, my stare habits, my Sunday phone schedule, and apparently my relationship with donuts. The jury has concerns. Logan laughed under his breath, and I felt the sound more than heard it because we were standing close enough now that his voice seemed to occupy the darkness between us. His hand remained around mine. Mine remained around his. Neither of us mentioned that part. What do you want me to say? He asked. That stopped me. I could have made another joke. Normally, I would have. Jokes were convenient little emergency exits. If a conversation became too personal, I could always make somebody laugh and run through the opening. But there was nowhere to run here. The truth, I said. Logan became quiet again. Somewhere above us, the ventilation fan hummed steadily. I started noticing you during my first week, he said. You were arguing with the copier. I groaned. That machine started it. You called it an emotionally manipulative appliance. It knew what it did. Then you apologized to the intern because you thought you had scared him. I remembered that morning. Barely. To me, it had been nothing. To Logan, apparently, it had become a memory. After that, I kept noticing things, he continued. You remember people's names. You ask about their families. When Melissa gets stressed before presentations, you make everyone laugh until she relaxes. When somebody gets talked over in meetings, you bring the conversation back to them. My chest felt strangely tight again, but this time it had nothing to do with the elevator. You make me sound much nicer than I am. You do that. Do what? Turn compliments into jokes. I opened my mouth. Closed it. Rude. Accurate, but rude. Maybe compliments make me nervous. I noticed. Of course you did. His fingers shifted gently against mine, and suddenly I was grateful for the darkness because I was fairly certain my face had become embarrassingly warm. There is something I do not understand, I said. If you noticed me that much, why did you spend the last year acting like being alone with me was a workplace hazard? Logan's breathing changed. Barely, but I heard it. I was not avoiding you. Logan, you once. waited for the next elevator because I was inside one by myself. That was different. How? Silence. I tilted my head toward his voice even though I could not see him. Were you afraid I would talk the entire ride? That was a possibility. Hayes. Another quiet laugh. Then it vanished. I thought you were seeing someone, he said. Every thought in my head stopped. What? A few months after I started. I heard you talking about someone downstairs. You said he stayed at your apartment, that your family loved him, and that you could not imagine your life without him. Confusion lasted exactly 2 seconds. Then recognition arrived. Oh no. What? I started laughing. I could not help it. Logan, were you talking about Ryan? I never heard his name. Ryan is my cousin. Logan went completely still. Your cousin? My cousin from Seattle. He stayed with me while interviewing for a job. We grew up together. My mother practically considers him another son. The silence that followed was magnificent. For once, Logan Hayes had absolutely nothing to say. I squeezed his hand. You spent months avoiding me because you thought my cousin was my boyfriend? Finally, very quietly, Logan said, this has not been my best evening. Your best evening? I repeated. Logan, I am trapped in a dark elevator with a man who apparently spent months believing my cousin was my boyfriend. This might be my best evening. Your standards are concerning. My standards are excellent. My circumstances are concerning. His laugh came quietly through the darkness. Warmer now, less guarded. I realized I had spent almost a year thinking Logan was difficult to read, when maybe he had simply been trying very hard not to be read at all. So what happened? I asked. After you misunderstood the Ryan situation. Nothing happened. Exactly. That is the problem. Logan shifted beside me. His hand loosened again, as though offering me another chance to pull away. Instead, I adjusted my fingers until our hands fit more comfortably together. He went completely still. Ethan. What? Nothing. You keep saying nothing when there is clearly a very large something standing in this elevator. He exhaled slowly. I was going to ask you to dinner. My heart performed a small, unreasonable leap. When? Last November. 7 months ago? Approximately. You have been approximately avoiding me for 7 months because of my cousin. When you say it like that, it sounds ridiculous. There is no way to say it that does not sound ridiculous. Thank you. I am here to support you. I smiled into the darkness, but the humor softened almost immediately. You really wanted to ask me out? Logan did not answer at first. The silence felt different now. Fragile. Yes, he finally said. One word. No joke. No escape route. Just yes. I swallowed. Why did you never ask whether I was actually seeing someone? Because I thought I already knew. You could have saved yourself 7 months. I am becoming aware of that. Also several $100s in mysterious coffee purchases. Those were not mysterious. They appeared on my desk without explanation. You always look tired on Mondays. There it was again. That impossible tenderness hidden inside ordinary details. Coffee. Napkins. Corrected charts. A sandwich without mustard. Things I had treated as coincidences because believing otherwise had seemed too hopeful. Logan, I said softly, I thought you did not like me. His hand tightened around mine. I know. You knew? You talk more when you think someone is uncomfortable around you. I almost laughed. That is humiliatingly accurate. I never wanted you to think I disliked you. Then you chose a fascinating strategy. I was trying to respect what I thought was your relationship. That quiet sincerity removed every joke from my mouth. He had not kept his distance because he was cold. He had kept it because he thought I belonged to someone else. For future reference, I said, I am not seeing anyone. Logan went silent. That information seems relevant now. It does. And you? I asked. No. My pulse jumped again. Wonderful. Apparently the broken elevator had become a matchmaking service. So, I said, attempting casual and failing badly. If you had asked me to dinner last November, where would you have taken me? There is an Italian place on Madison Avenue. You mentioned liking their baked ziti. I closed my eyes. Of course you remembered that. I told you. His thumb moved gently over my knuckles. I noticed things. Before I could answer, a faint metallic hum returned somewhere above us. The elevator trembled beneath our feet. Logan's voice changed instantly. Ethan, stay close. I tightened my hand around his. I am not going anywhere. The elevator moved just enough to make my stomach forget every reassuring thing Logan had said. A low mechanical hum passed through the walls, followed by a brief shift beneath our feet. I reached for the nearest solid thing without thinking. Unfortunately for my dignity, the nearest solid thing was Logan. My free hand landed against his chest while his arm came around my shoulders to steady me. Then everything stopped again. Silence returned. "Okay," I whispered. "I officially withdraw every nice thing I have ever said about elevators." Logan did not answer. His breathing was faster than before. I noticed because my hand was still resting against his chest, and beneath my palm his heartbeat was moving far quicker than the calm voice he had been using all night suggested. I froze. "Logan, I am fine." I almost laughed. "Absolutely not. That is my line. Ethan, you are nervous. Anyone would be nervous." "No, you are nervous." His arms slowly lowered from my shoulders, but he did not step away. "That is not a recognized medical category." "It is now." I waited for another dry joke. None came. Instead, Logan drew a careful breath. The sound was controlled, but now that I knew what to listen for, I could hear the effort behind it. Something inside me shifted. For the past several minutes, I had treated him like the calm one, the steady one, the man who somehow knew what to say while I tried not to imagine the walls closing around us. I had never considered that he might be scared too. "Why did you not tell me?" I asked. "You were already having a hard time." That does not answer the question. It does for me. My hand was still against his chest. I started to move it, suddenly worried I had crossed some invisible boundary, but Logan gently caught my wrist. Not to keep me there, just to stop me long enough to speak. "You did not do anything wrong." His voice was softer now. I let my hand fall to my side, but our other hands remained linked. "You have been pretending to be calm for me." I was trying to help. "Those are not the same thing." Silence. I leaned back against the wall, still close enough to feel the warmth of his shoulder beside mine. "What are you afraid of?" I asked. "Besides getting trapped in elevators with marketing employees who ask invasive questions." That earned a quiet breath of laughter. "I am not afraid of the elevator." "Then what?" Logan took several seconds to answer. "Not being able to fix things." The words were so simple that I almost missed their weight. "You think you have to fix this?" "No. I know I cannot. That is the problem." I turned toward him in the darkness. "Logan, I did not need you to repair the elevator." "I know. I needed you to stay." His fingers tightened around mine. "That I can do." For once, I did not make a joke. I simply stood beside him and listened to both of us breathe. Slowly, his breathing began matching mine. For seconds in, for seconds out. The rhythm he had given me became something we shared. "You know," I said eventually, "this changes things." "How?" "I thought you were some mysterious human emergency manual." "I am sorry to disappoint you. Actually, I think I like this version better." He went very still. "Why?" I smiled even though he could not see it. "Because now I know you were not fearless." I squeezed his hand once. "You were just trying to make sure I did not have to be afraid by myself." For a while, neither of us spoke. The darkness no longer felt empty. It felt private, like the entire building had disappeared and left only two people who had somehow become more honest in 20 minutes than they had managed to be in nearly a year. Logan was the one who finally broke the silence. "I was not always this quiet." I turned toward his voice. "That is difficult to imagine. Were you once the office karaoke champion?" "No." "Debate team?" "Ethan, I am creating possibilities." He gave a small laugh, but it faded quickly. "I used to say what I thought. Probably too much. I refuse to believe there is a version of you who talks too much." There was. His fingers shifted around mine. "Someone I dated used to tell me I made everything too serious. If I asked whether something was wrong, I was overthinking. If I wanted to talk about where we were going, I was putting pressure on him. If I tried to explain how I felt, I was making things complicated." I stopped smiling. Logan continued before I could respond. "Eventually, I started editing myself before I spoke. Then I started deciding most things were better left unsaid." There was no bitterness in his voice. That somehow made it sadder. "How long were you together?" "Almost 3 years." "That is a long time to practice disappearing." Logan became completely still. I immediately wondered whether I had gone too far. "Sorry, that sounded more dramatic out loud." "No," he said. "It sounded accurate." I leaned my shoulder lightly against his. He did not move away. "For what it is worth, I think whoever convinced you that caring too much was a character flaw had terrible judgment. You do not know the whole story." "True. But I know you stayed late to fix 17 formatting problems you did not create." You bought dinner because I forgot to eat. You remembered my coffee order for months. And when the lights went out, you were scared too. But your first concern was making sure I could breathe. My voice softened. That does not sound like too much to me. Logan inhaled slowly. You make everything sound simple. That is because I work in marketing. We turn complicated things into 3 bullet points and an unnecessary slogan. He laughed again, and I felt some of the tension leave his hand. There is another reason I did not ask you out, he said. My heart stumbled. Besides my imaginary relationship with my cousin? Yes. Please tell me you did not also think I was married to the guy from accounting. I thought you deserved someone easier. That silenced me. Easier than what? Than me. The answer came immediately. No hesitation. No humor. Logan, I am serious. Unfortunately, so am I. I turned until my shoulder faced him fully. You have spent a year deciding what I would think without ever giving me the chance to think it. He said nothing. You thought I had a boyfriend, so you stepped back. You thought I would find you difficult, so you stayed quiet. You thought I needed someone fearless, so you pretended you were not scared. I squeezed his hand gently. You keep making choices for me. His breath caught. I never thought about it that way. Then start now. Start what? Letting me decide. The silence between us became impossibly still. All right, Logan said softly. Then decide something. My heart began beating faster. What? Whether you want me to keep holding your hand. I looked down even though I could see nothing. His fingers were warm, patient, waiting. I tightened mine around them. That one is easy, I whispered. Stay. Stay. I said again, because apparently one syllable had become the bravest thing I had said all night. Logan did. His hand remained around mine, warm and steady, but something between us had changed. Before, he had been holding on because I was afraid. Now neither of us had an excuse. You realize this is going to make Monday morning extremely weird, I said. It is already Monday. That makes it worse. We have achieved workplace awkwardness before midnight. Logan laughed softly. You could let go. Interesting suggestion from the man who just asked me to decide. Fair point. I shifted against the wall until my shoulder rested beside his. The elevator remained silent except for the faint ventilation fan. Can I ask you something? I said. You have not exactly been waiting for permission so far. Look at you developing sarcasm in real time. What is the question, Ethan? I took a breath. If we stay stuck here another 10 minutes, is there something you would tell me that you would never say upstairs? Logan became quiet. That is oddly specific. I have had time to workshop it. Of course you have. Well, his thumb moved once against my hand, then stopped. Yes. My heart immediately forgot how to behave. There is. Yes. That was not an invitation to become mysterious again. I am thinking. You have been thinking for 7 months. Logan exhaled a quiet laugh. You really are not going to make this easy. I think we established that you do not actually want easy. Silence followed. I could hear his breathing. Mine too. Slow, careful, suddenly much louder than it had any right to be. I would tell you that I look forward to Mondays because you are there, Logan said. Every joke in my head disappeared. I would tell you that when something funny happens, you are usually the first person I want to tell, even though most of the time I do not. His voice lowered. I would tell you I have rewritten the same invitation to dinner on my phone so many times that it became embarrassing. I smiled helplessly into the darkness. How many times? That is classified. More than 10. Ethan. 20. You are ruining the moment. Sorry. Continue ruining my emotional stability. He laughed, then went quiet again. And I would tell you that I was wrong to decide for you. My fingers tightened around his. So ask me now. Logan inhaled. Ask you what? You know what? I would prefer to hear you say it. Of course you would. Apparently being trapped has made you difficult. Maybe I was always difficult. Good. He paused. Good. Yes. Now ask me. The silence stretched for 1 heartbeat, then 2. Ethan, when we get out of here, would you let me take you to dinner? I smiled so hard my face hurt. The Italian place? If you want. The one with the baked ziti you remembered I liked? Yes. Then my answer is. A sudden click sounded above us. Light flooded the elevator. I blinked against the brightness. For the first time since everything stopped, I could see Logan clearly. He was standing less than a foot away, tie loosened, dark hair slightly out of place, gray-blue eyes fixed on me with an expression I had never seen at work. Hope. Nervous, unmistakable hope. Then I looked down. Our hands were still linked between us. The floor display flickered back to life. 19. A speaker crackled overhead. This is building security. We have you. Please remain calm while we bring the elevator to the nearest floor. Logan looked at me. You were saying? I glanced at our hands, then back. At him. I think, I said softly. You are going to have to wait until the doors open. The elevator began moving so gently that for several seconds I did not trust it. The floor display changed from 19 to 18, and I watched the glowing number like it had personally promised to return us to civilization. We are moving, I said. I noticed. I looked at Logan. That was my line. You have enough lines. True. The speaker crackled again, and the security guard told us the doors would open on the 18th floor. I should have felt nothing but relief. Instead, an unexpected disappointment settled somewhere behind my ribs. In a few seconds, the doors would open and this strange private world would disappear. There would be fluorescent lights, security staff, phones, schedules, parking receipts, and every ordinary thing that had existed before Logan took my hand. I looked down. We were still holding on. Then the elevator slowed. Logan's fingers loosened. I hated how quickly I noticed. The doors opened to a brightly lit hallway where two building security employees waited beside a maintenance worker. You two okay? One of them asked. Fine. Logan answered immediately. At almost the same moment, he released my hand. The absence of it felt ridiculous. My hand was perfectly functional. Nothing had happened to it. Yet it suddenly felt strangely empty. We are good, I said, stepping into the hallway. Although I would like to file a formal complaint against gravity, darkness, and possibly this entire building. The older security guard smiled. You were stuck about 30 minutes. 30 minutes. That was all. Somehow it felt like Logan and I had entered that elevator as two coworkers and stepped out carrying 7 months of missed possibilities between us. The maintenance worker began explaining that another elevator would take us down from the 17th floor after a short walk. I nodded without hearing much of it. Logan had already shifted back into office mode. Shoulders straight. Expression composed. Messenger bag over one shoulder. Distance restored. Logan, I said quietly as we followed the guard toward the stairwell. He glanced at me. Are you okay? Yes. Are you? I am fine. There it was again. Fine. The safest word in the English language when somebody wanted to hide behind it. We walked down one flight and entered another elevator with the security guard. This one was brightly lit and completely functional. Logan stood on the opposite side from me. No hand, no shoulder beside mine, no quiet confession waiting in the dark. By the time we reached the lobby, I had convinced myself I understood. Adrenaline, fear, isolation. Maybe Logan regretted saying too much. Maybe he had asked me to dinner because the darkness made everything feel temporary. Outside, rain had begun tapping against the glass doors. Logan stopped near the lobby entrance. Your car is in the garage, right? Yes. Mine is across the street. Right. Another silence. I waited for him to mention dinner. He did not. His eyes dropped briefly toward my hand, then returned to my face. You should get home and rest. My stomach sank. Logan, tonight was unusual. The carefulness in his voice made something inside me tighten. I do not want you to feel obligated because I helped you through a difficult moment. Suddenly I understood. He was doing it again. Deciding for me. Logan gave me a small, polite smile, the same one he wore at work. Good night, Ethan. He turned toward the doors. For one stunned second, I watched him walk away. Then I looked at my empty hand. Oh, absolutely not, I muttered and went after him. Logan. He stopped just before the lobby doors opened automatically, but he did not turn around. Rain shimmered beyond the glass, turning the streetlights outside into soft streaks of gold. I crossed the lobby toward him, suddenly grateful that my legs were working better than my thoughts. You are doing it again. Logan finally faced me. Doing what? Deciding for me. His expression changed. Barely. Ethan, I am trying to give you space. Did I ask for space? No. But after what happened tonight. What happened tonight? I interrupted. We got stuck. I panicked. You helped me. Then we talked. That part was real, was it not? Yes. You told me you wanted to ask me out. Yes. You told me you look forward to Mondays because I am there. Logan glanced toward the security desk, where the guard suddenly became extremely interested in a computer monitor. Could we perhaps lower our voices? Absolutely. I can embarrass both of us quietly. Despite himself, Logan almost smiled. Good. I stepped closer. You asked whether I wanted you to keep holding my hand. I remember. And I said yes. You were scared. I was scared when you first took my hand. I paused. I was not scared when I chose to keep holding yours. Logan said nothing. There it was again, that careful silence he used whenever he had too much to say. This time I did not fill it with a joke. I simply waited. I do not want you waking up tomorrow and feeling like tonight pushed you into something, he finally said. That is fair. His eyebrows lifted slightly, clearly surprised by my agreement. But you know what is not fair? I continued, assuming that because I was vulnerable, I cannot know what I want. His expression softened. You are right. I know. Please enjoy this historic occasion because I will deny saying it later. A quiet laugh escaped him. I looked down at his hand hanging beside his coat. Then I remembered what he had done for me in the dark. He had not grabbed me. He had offered. He had let me choose. So I did the same. I held out my hand between us. Logan stared at it. What are you doing? Providing you with a very simple decision. Ethan, you held my hand because I was scared. My voice softened. I am holding yours because I am not. Something changed in his face then. The guarded expression disappeared, leaving behind the man I had heard in the darkness. Hopeful, nervous, real. Slowly, Logan placed his hand in mine. His fingers closed around mine, and the warmth felt familiar immediately. For the record, I said, my answer is yes. He blinked. To what? Dinner. You made me wait all this time to answer? You walked away before I could. That is fair. Italian place. Baked ziti. You are paying because you spent 7 months thinking my cousin was my boyfriend. Logan laughed, fully this time. Friday. Friday works. 7 o'clock? 7 works. I can pick you up. That also works. He smiled, and for once there was nothing small or hidden about it. You are making this suspiciously easy now. I squeezed his hand. No, Logan. I am just finally getting a vote. 3 months later, Logan and I stood in front of the elevators on the 22nd floor while I considered whether taking the stairs down was a reasonable life choice. It is only 22 floors, I said. Logan glanced at me. You complained about walking 2 blocks to lunch yesterday. That was different. It was humid. It was 71 degrees. Emotionally humid. His mouth curved into the smile I had learned was much easier to earn outside the office than I had once believed. A lot had changed in 3 months. Friday dinner had become Sunday brunch. Sunday brunch had become Wednesday takeout. Somewhere between Logan meeting Ryan and apologizing for mentally assigning him the role of my boyfriend, and me discovering Logan owned 6 nearly identical gray sweaters because he claimed they were different shades, we had stopped calling what we were doing dating and started calling it a relationship. Logan still bought me coffee on Mondays. I still talked enough for both of us. He had become better at saying what he wanted instead of deciding it was safer to say nothing. I had become better at accepting sincere compliments without immediately turning them into jokes. Mostly. We can take the stairs, Logan said. The teasing left his voice. He never made my fear into something I had to prove I had conquered. That was one of the things I loved about him. The thought no longer frightened me either. Loved. Simple word. Complicated journey. No, I said. Elevator. Logan nodded and pressed the button. The doors opened with a cheerful chime that felt suspiciously innocent considering our history. We stepped inside. Logan pressed the button for the parking garage, then moved beside me without reaching for my hand. He never assumed. Even now. The doors closed. 21. 20. 19. I breathed normally. See? I said. Personal growth. I am impressed. Please document that statement. I may need it later. 18. 17. Then the elevator. Gave the smallest hesitation. Barely anything. A brief mechanical pause before continuing downward. My entire body noticed. Logan noticed me noticing. His eyes moved to mine. Ethan, I am okay. He waited. No automatic reassurance. No reaching for me. Just Logan, standing close enough to help and far enough to let me choose. I looked down at his hand. 3 months ago, darkness had hidden everything I was too afraid to admit. Tonight the elevator was bright. There was nowhere to hide, and I realized I did not want to. I held out my hand. You know, I said, technically it is your turn. Logan looked at my hand, then at me. My turn for what? To be dramatic. I think you have that department covered. Unbelievable. I offer you personal growth and you insult me. He laughed and placed his hand in mine. Our fingers settled together with the comfortable familiarity of something practiced but never taken for granted. The elevator continued downward. 12, 11, 10. Still okay, he asked. I squeezed his hand. Better than okay. His thumb brushed once across my knuckles, exactly as it had that first night. The memory returned so clearly that I could almost hear the darkness again. My frightened breathing. Logan telling me to stay with his voice. The strange realization that the quiet man 3 desks away had been paying attention all along. What? Logan asked. Nothing. He raised an eyebrow. You are smiling. I was thinking about how badly you misunderstood the Ryan situation. I regret asking. 7 months, Logan. We agreed to stop discussing this. You agreed. I made no such commitment. The doors opened into the parking garage. Neither of us moved immediately. Logan looked down at our joined hands. Ready? Once, I had needed him to hold on because I was afraid. Then I had chosen his hand because I was not. Somewhere along the way, those two things had become something simpler. I did not need darkness, fear, or a broken elevator to reach for him anymore. I just wanted to. Yeah, I said, stepping forward with him. I am ready. And even after we left the elevator behind, neither of us let go. Thank you so much for visiting our channel and spending your time with us. We truly appreciate every view, every comment, and every moment you share with our stories. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like to support our channel. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our upcoming videos. Your support means the world to us and motivates us to keep creating more high-quality stories for you. Thank you for being part of our community, and we'll see you in the next video.